Now we are studying about the electric flux. Before starting electric flux, we must have to know about the area vector. Now this we are talking about the area vector. While solving the various problems in physics, we need a magnitude of surface area and also the direction of the surface area. In mathematics, the direction of planar area vector is specified by the normal to the plane. Now, in this case, we are going to consider the planar area element ds, and it is the ds and is represented by the normal vector ds vector. Now, the length of vector ds is represented by the magnitude ds of the area element. Now, if you see that n cap is the unit vector along the normal to the planar area, if you see that this is the n cap and this is along the normal to the planar area. Now, if you see that in that case, ds vector is equals to ds is also a normal vector to the plane. So therefore, ds is equals to ds n cap, and ds vector is always acting along the unit vector, which is normal to the planar area. Now we talk about the electric flux. Electric flux can be defined as the number of electric field lines passing through an area. Normally, uh, is called electric flux. Now, if you see that the electric field line E passes normally through an area element delta S, the electric flux through that area is given by delta phi suffix E equals to E delta S. You can say that the electric flux is equals to the product of magnitude of electric field and this delta S, area of the surface, or you can say that the area element. Now suppose a case here in which the normal to the area element delta S makes an angle theta with the electric field E. In that case, we are going to find out the electric flux. Now we have this slide here. If you see that this n cap makes an angle theta, the n cap is the normal to the this area element delta S, and it makes an angle theta with the this electric field vector. Now in that case, the component of this E is given by E cos theta, which is perpendicular to the surface and acting along the unit vector n cap. So delta phi is equals to normal component of E into surface area. Now in this case, normal component of E, which is along the n cap, is given by E cos theta, and the surface area is given as delta S. So we have the value of delta phi, that is equals to E delta S cos theta, and that is E dot delta S. Now we are going to consider the case when electric field is non-uniform. In that case, we consider a closed surface S which is lying inside the field, and further we can divide this surface S into a small area element, that is delta S1, delta S2, and so on, delta Sn. Now the corresponding electric field element is given by E1, E2, and En vectors. Now we're going to find out the total electric flux. In that case, the total electric flux is given by phi, and that is equals to E1 vector dot delta S1 vector plus E2 vector dot delta S2 vector, and so on to En vector dot delta Sn vector. Now we are going to put a sigma sign over there. In next slide. In this case, we are going to put a sigma sign, and we are taking the value of I, that is I equals to 1 to n, and ei vector dot delta Si. Now if suppose capital N is approaching to infinity, in that case delta S is also approaching to 0. The above sum approaches a surface integral taken over the closed surface. So here we can say that phi equals to the closed surface integral of E dot ds vector. Now here we are talking about the unit of electric flux. Unit of electric flux is given by Newton per Coulomb into meter square. That comes out to be the unit of SI unit of this electric flux, that is Newton meter square per Coulomb. Another SI unit of this electric flux is volt per meter into meter square. That means volt meter. That is a unit of electric flux. Now we are going to define this Gauss theorem here. Now the Gauss theorem is defined as the total flux through any closed surface is 1 upon epsilon naught times the net charge enclosed by that closed surface. Now in that case, electric flux is given by phi E equals to closed surface integral E vector dot ds vector, and that is equals to q upon epsilon naught. Now this is the Gauss theorem here. Now we are going to consider a point charge q. Now there is a Gaussian spherical surface. Now we are talking about a Gaussian spherical surface, or we can say that the Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface is defined as the closed surface, hypothetical closed surface, which includes the charge, net charge. So I think this Gaussian surface definition of through this definition, the concept of Gaussian surface is clear to you. Now we are talking about this ds. ds is the normal vector, and surface S, we are going to take a small area element and ds on the surface S, and on this small surface ds, the normal vector is given by ds vector. Along this vector, electric field is also acting there. So we are see that electric field is given by E equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square here. In this case, electric field at any point on S is given by E equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r. Now the flux through the area ds is given by d phi, E suffix E equals to E dot ds vector. Now the angle between E and ds is 0 degrees, so E ds cos 0 degree equals to E ds. Now we put the value of E vector dot ds vector in equation first, so we get the value, this value here, uh, closed surface integral E ds. Since E remains this constant, so we take the closed surface integral along ds. That will representing the total area of sphere. In that case, E into 4 pi r square. Now we put the value of E, that is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square into 4 pi r square. R square is cancelled out and 4 pi is also cancelled out. In that case, we get the ratio of q upon epsilon naught. And this is the Gauss theorem. Now we see that the application of Gauss theorem. The first case we are going to consider here, electric field due to an infinitely long straight wire. Now we are taking this positively charged straight wire. The shape of this wire is cylindrical, so there is a Gaussian surface is formed around that uh, straight wire, positively charged straight wire. Now this upper surface is given by S2, the cut surface is given by S1, and the lower surface is given by S3. Now at surface S2, the area vector is normal and is given by ds2 vector, which makes 90-degree angle with the electric field. Now again, electric field E makes an angle with ds1, that is 0 degree, and again at lower surface that ds3 makes an angle 90 degree with the E vector. Small r is the radius of the cylinder and L is the height of the cylinder. Now we are going to find out the total electric flux here. Now the phi is total electric flux, that is equals to the sum of this product of electric field and uh, this ds vector. Now if we see that S1 E dot ds1 plus S2 E dot ds2 S3 E dot ds3. Now the angle between E and ds1 vector is given by 0 degree. So in case of S2, it is E dot ds2 and the angle between this vector is 90 degree. So it becomes 0. Now again S3 E dot ds3, you get the dot product of that E ds3 cos 90 degree, and again it becomes 0. So we have this relation E integration of ds1 plus 0 plus 0. Now E into area of the curved surface ds1, that is 2 pi rl. E into 2 pi rl, that is pi E. Now we know that in case of Gaussian surface, Q is equals to lambda L. Lambda will representing the charge density, linear charge density. Now using Gauss theorem, phi, we know that phi equals to Q upon epsilon. Now using this Gauss theorem, phi equals to Q upon epsilon naught, we get E dot 2 pi RL equals to lambda L upon epsilon naught, and finally we get E equals to lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught R. Now we are going to find out electric field due to a uniformly charged infinitely plane sheet. Now if you see that, we are going to consider a thin infinite plane sheet of charge with uniform surface charge density sigma. We wish to calculate its electric field at point P. You see this in this figure here, P. Now, by symmetry, electric field E points outward, normal to the sheet. Also, it must have same magnitude and opposite direction at 2 points P and P dash. That is P and P dash. Equidistant from the sheet and on opposite sides. We choose cylindrical Gaussian surface of cross-section area A and length 2r. That means length 2r. Uh, Cross-sectional area is taken as A here. This one is the cross-section area which is taken as A, and length. Suppose the distance r plus r on both sides. So therefore, the length of the cylinder becomes 2r. As the line of forces are parallel to the curved surface of a cylinder, the flux through the curved surface is zero. The flux through the plane end of the face of the cylinder is given by phi E equals to the sum of these EA plus EA, that is 2EA. Now we are using this Gaussian surface here, charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface here, that is Q equals to sigma A, where sigma represents the surface charge density and A represents the cross-sectional area. Now we are applying the Gaussian theorem here, pi equals to Q upon epsilon naught. Now we put the value of Q here, sigma A. Phi E equals to Q upon epsilon naught, and we put the value of Q, that is uh, sigma A upon epsilon naught. That is equals to 2EA. Now again E equals to sigma upon 2 epsilon naught. Now this formula gives out that E is independent of the R and the distance from the plane sheet. If the sheet is positively charged, suppose, in that case sigma must be greater than 0. The field is directed away from it. Now in second case, if the sheet is negatively charged, that means sigma is less than 0, the field is directed towards it. Now we are going to find out the electric field due to a uniformly charged thin spherical shell. Now we have this spherical shell here. Now first of all, we are going to find out the electric field at point P lies outside the spherical shell. And after that, we are going to find out the electric field at point P which lies on the spherical shell. And finally, we are going to find out the electric field at point P lies inside the spherical shell. After that, we are going to discuss about the graph between E and small r. Now, the first case we are going to discuss now here, where we are going to find out the electric field at point P, which is at distance small r from the center of the sphere. Now, we are going to consider the radius of this sphere is taken as capital R, and the uniform charge density of this spherical shell is given by sigma, and we are going to find out the electric field E at point P due to this uniformly charged sphere. Now at P, electric field E is given by E equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon R square. We have to find out this value here. For first of all, we are going to find out the relation that is between the charge and the surface charge density here. So we know that Q equals to sigma A, that is here Q equals to sigma A. A is the area of the sphere, that is equals to the 4 pi r square, and sigma is the surface charge density. Here, Q equals to 4 pi r square sigma. Now, as we know that flux through this Gaussian surface at which the point P lies is given by phi equals to E 4 pi r square. Phi equals to E 4 into 4 pi r square. Now applying the Gauss theorem, phi E equals to Q upon epsilon naught here. In that case, phi already we have find out, that is E into 4 pi r square, that is equals to Q upon epsilon naught. Therefore, E equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square. This is the electric field E at point P outside the spherical shell. Now, in second case, we are going to find out the electric field at point P, which is lies on the spherical shell. In that case, this pi equals to 4 pi r square into E. And as per Gauss theorem, that phi equals to Q upon epsilon naught. So again, we put the value of phi, that is E 4 pi r square equals to Q epsilon naught E. Ultimately, we get the value of E, that is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon r square. And again, we know that Q equals to 4 pi r square sigma. So we put the value, and ultimately we get the value of E equals to sigma upon epsilon naught. Now we are going to discuss the third case, when P lies inside the spherical shell. When P lies inside the spherical shell, in that case, as per the Gaussian theorem, that is phi equals to 4 pi r square, small r square into E. Now again, applying the Gaussian theorem here, that is phi equals to Q upon epsilon naught, and we put the value of this E 4 pi r square equals to Q upon epsilon naught. As we know that inside the uh, within the this spherical shell, basically the charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface is 0. So Q equals to 0 inside the spherical shell. So we put the value of Q equals to 0 here. Ultimately, we get the value of E equals to 0, which shows that the electric field due to a uniformly charged shell is 0 at all points inside the shell. Now we are going to discuss about the graph between capital E and small r. Capital E representing the electric field, and R is small r representing the distance of this point where we are going to find out the electric field. So we see that in this graph, now we see that in this graph, between E and small r, E is inversely proportional to R square. So if within the spherical shell, as we know that electric field is 0, so we have the graph here from origin O, that is representing the center of the spherical shell, to R. The electric field is 0. At R, capital R, electric field is given by this, here E equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon R square. This is the maximum value of E here. As the value of R reaches to small r, the value of E is going to be decreases, as E is inversely proportional to R square, so the value of E is going to be decreases. So there is a fall in the curve of this graph here, and this is the graph between this E and R, small r.